Hi. For past few days, the things in the US have been really strange. If you have if you are living in the United States and unless you are living in a bubble, you must have noticed one of the police in Minneapolis has choked a black guy, and you could see the hatred from that cop's eyes. While he was choking, he was literally looking into the camera. And while people around who were shooting the video, they were asking him to let the guy breathe, he simply kneeled his knee on George Floyd's neck. It's it's complicated when it comes down to racism in United States. There is a long history of racism in United States, and especially systematic racism, even though social racism has taken a back seat where people are not technically discriminatory in day-to-day life, or they're not, they at least they show as if they are not, but there is subconscious racism in a lot of people here, and that comes from this us and them mentality, because we all evolved us and them mentality. It's that tribal mentality where our tribe is superior, our tribe can do nothing wrong, and their tribe is inferior, or their tribe is always wrong. And over the years, that definition of that tribe has changed and evolved for sure, but not to the degree that there is no difference between one culture versus other, or not to the degree where people can find some common ground or include everyone in their tribe. See, the point I'm trying to make is there has been us versus them mentality throughout our evolution. Like, we as a human tribe versus the nature that pushed us into this industrial revolution, getting power over the nature instead of symbiotically working with nature, to the extent that we are facing this climate crisis right now because we don't value nature anymore, and we just use nature as something to gain power over. So that's the same us versus them mentality. And then when it comes to a little lesser scale, like when it comes to a scale of a country, then the us versus them mentality is nationalist versus immigrants. And then when it comes down to a different tribes, depending on what people believe in, if people believe that they are from a particular religion, they still have that us versus them mentality. If they believe that they are from a specific political background, still have us and them mentality. In India, people have this casteism belief system, uh, where it's similar to the divisions in the world we have today. But just to kind of give you an overview, the world is in today's timeline is classified based on the amount of money you have. So that's the class system. So it doesn't matter how you accumulated that money. It could be that randomly you were born into a rich family and there you go, you're still a higher class. Or it could be that you uh, committed all the illegal businesses or whatnot to gain that money. And in a way, you're still treated as a high class. Again, questionable depending on what type of illegal business. If you do something like illegal drugs, then you're scumbag. But if you do illegal stuff as if playing with other people's money by conning them, then you could be rewarded, as a white collar criminal, or even could be rewarded as a president for that matter. But it's still the same thing. The class system is defined based on the amount of money you possess. And likewise, in India, the caste system is, or was, or still is in many cases, dependent on the work you do. So that's the whole karma thing. Karma itself means that the actions you take in day-to-day life, the work you do. So caste system evolved around that. So depending on the type of work you do, you're classified into a specific caste. Today we call it as professionals or entrepreneurs or worker class because they earn less money. But that's what caste system used to be. It was dependent on your action. But over the years, we evolved into class system, which is dependent on the amount of money you have. So it's in India, people differentiate based on the internal beliefs, and in US, people differentiate based on the exterior features. And to be honest, both are worse. First of all, differentiating any tribe, you name it, based on caste, based on class, based on religion, based on race, based on politics. When one tribe starts differentiating others, there always will be division. And that division is open for exploitation by people in power, people who have control over this organization of, say, religion, of organization, of government, of organization, of, you name it. But in all the cases, the division comes with the abuse of power. So it's okay to, based on one's race, but now when I say differentiate, I don't mean it as treating differently. What I mean is to classify differently. So rather I should say it's okay to classify based on one's race, because that could be empowering to some people. Personally, I'm not in that mindset, but I get it. Some people gain empowerment race they belong to, so that's them. But it becomes corrupted when that is abused by extremists, so when somebody in power and control starts saying that because I'm from this particular race, I'm superior than any other race, that's when things get crazy, real quick, and real intense. And likewise, the same thing goes with the religion as well. When you believe into something, that's fine. Keep your beliefs to yourself. I don't believe in any God, but I don't force my beliefs on anybody else. Likewise, most of the religion, or unlike that, most of the religion try to spread their religious belief. And the whole reason is because the more number of blind followers, I guess, the people in power can abuse based on people's belief. So racism is based on how people look from outside. Religion is based on how people believe from inside. And likewise, the class system is how much money everyone have, right? But I don't have problem with people who earn their way into a specific class per se, or who become rich. I have problem with people who lobby within governments to draft laws in their company's favor and then become rich. So personally, like, I admire Oprah or J.K. Rowling, who are self-made billionaire, and they became billionaire based on their artistic expression and everything they bring in this world. At the same time, we have people like Koch brothers who are literally changing the laws in their favor so that they can get more money out of government. If that's not abuse of power, if that's not corrupted form of classism, then I don't know what is. In the perfect situation, in the ideal society, government is not acting as a mediator. Government is acting as a gateway. Government is not writing laws to favor one or the other class, caste, class, whatever. Government is just doing the right thing because it's a collection of all the people. That would be an ideal society. And in that ideal society, when an entrepreneur creates a product or a service, and when people automatically gravitate towards that product and service and they become rich, that's the most satisfying way to become rich. I mean, anyone could become rich if they know the inside information. Anybody can become rich if they have power to create laws in their favor. What is the satisfaction in that, anyways? And I guess that's why most of the people who become rich in that way are not happy. They are deeply unsatisfied because they didn't earn that money. They just kind of corrupted the system in their favor. I have more respect for people who earn their money, who put in the work. And on the same line, casteism is very similar. Casteism has been dividing people for past thousands of years in India. And based on this BS argument that you're born into a caste. Well, especially when there are people who are born into the lowest caste and are treated as the one of the best philosophers in the Hinduism religion itself. So what I'm getting at is caste system itself was classified or created to classify this society based on the work you do, based on the value you give to the society. So there was a good way to classify people based on whatever you want to do. But over time, it became so corrupted that people actually start holding their caste as if they're born into the caste and start differentiating people from lower caste. Well, the point I'm making is this us versus them mentality is within us. Then the next question is, what can you do? What can I do personally so that we don't express this tribal mindset, or express still would be a wrong word. We don't act from this tribal mindset at all. In fact we become so aware and so humble that we include everyone into our tribe instead of excluding people from our tribe. So one of the tweets I came across today, I wish I remember the author of that tweet, but shout out to her. But the tweet itself was beautiful. She tweeted that when you squeeze a lemon, you get a lemonade. When you squeeze an orange, you get an orange juice. So basically, whatever is inside you comes outside when you're exposed to stress, when you're exposed to crisis. And that's what is a beautiful message, that people who act from this racism or casteism or classism or any kind of hatred, they act from it because they have hatred in their heart or in their mindset. And whenever they're exposed to any kind of stress or crisis, all house of cards fall apart, I guess. Their hatred is out and open. And in the past 4 or 5 days, in fact, there have been multiple cases where people were targeting Black communities and specific Black individual, in fact. And you can see the reason why they do that is they have this subconscious hatred and bias towards one community over the other. Personally, I feel that we all grow up with these biases, right? Like even growing up in India, I had this bias against other religions, bias against other castes, biased against even class, like people who are poor. And I'm still fighting some of those biases within me. But at the same time, how quickly you adapt from that older pattern to the newer pattern and be compassionate and include that individual and that community within your tribe is the key. Because if you keep on adding or behaving with that bias, you will actually generate more hate within. And it is a vicious cycle to begin with. And I hope like everyone who want to come out of this biases can, to first become aware of their biases, to question themselves whenever they have any bias against any person or any community. Why exactly are they expressing that bias? And it takes a lot of courage to do that, because we want to, in fact, prove ourselves right so much. That's the ego within us, that it want to be proven right all the time, and that's why we look up for confirmation for our bias. So it takes a lot of courage to act against that and question our own beliefs and our own bias. So if you're starting up on that journey, I want to actually congratulate you, because you are very courageous to question your own bias. And once you do that, you will filter out all the BS, and you will see the connection between you and the other community, other individual, and to even expand that connection between you and the nature, the animals, the plants, everything, in fact. And that's an age-old message, right? Like we all are connected, we all are one. And it's very hard to describe the feeling unless you experienced it. I have experienced it to various degrees in various altered states, in meditation, in psychedelics, in sensory deprivation session, in a lot of other alternate states I've experienced. So that experience or the feeling of oneness would be the bridge between you and the others, us versus them. And to be honest, like most of these people are not even asking a lot. They're just asking for equality. They're not asking to be treated royally or specially. They're just asking to have equal stakes on the table. And denying that is inhumane. I will go to next level, and I would say denying equality to animals itself is inhumane. But that's again is a different conversation altogether. And yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I'm saying all of this today is because this is what I've been thinking from morning, because for past 3-4 days Minneapolis is burning, and it's burning because people who went there to have a peaceful protest, I don't know what happened, things got ugly. Most of the times it does, when a lot of people gather together with different level of emotions within them. And going back to the same metaphor, whatever you have inside, you will act or express that in your outside actions. And people who were holding on this frustration, on anger within them, because one of the fellow human was killed by someone in authority, so that anger kind of expressed the police stations. And I feel bad for everyone and everything in here, because there are no clear winners in here. Everyone is losing this. There were looters who just rammed into supermarket and just looted everything or most of the things. I mean, I know there is no justification for anything in any of this. Looting itself is bad, and again, that come from what's inside them. I would imagine that I won't do it, but I know a lot of people have different threshold of what they can do and what they can't do. And when we are exposed to stressful situations like this, anyone can break. And that's where it becomes very, very important for you to cultivate this mindset, this stronger mindset, to remain true to your nature instead of being a sheep in the herd, instead of just giving it in to the people around you and acting and behaving as they are, instead of living your own truth. And like I said, I have my own difficulties when it comes down to that in different areas of my life. But there are some boundaries which I don't cross. And I'm sure there are different boundaries for different people and people themselves in different way. But regardless, the bigger point is there are extremes on all sides. And between all of these extremes, we have to find love and humor. Because I feel that these are the only things which can heal some of these divisions and which will make the life worth living. And in order to do that, first we have to cultivate that within us, right? The love, the compassion, the humor within us. Because unless we are living that truth, we won't be able to express that in front of people. Uh, and it takes a lot of time. I've seen a lot of performers, a lot of good performers who can express from that humor or love side in public. And, once they are off the performance, it takes a while to actually live through that love and humor instead of like just performing it in public. Well, I mean, most of the things which I said today, I'm still kind of dabbling on how to effectively express most of those things, because this is such an important issue. The division of the society itself and what we are doing to each other. And I know it's easier for me to say it because I'm not in authority, not in a power, and people in power have different struggles. They have to look at the things from a different point of view altogether. And it's easier for me to kind of pinpoint at one system or one person and tell them what they have done wrong, instead of like looking at myself and knowing that I've done a lot of wrong things. But there's no justification for injustice, for discrimination based on any of the divisions. There isn't. And unless the system evolve from it, there will be more moments like these. Unfortunately, sometimes the system need to be shaken up. I kind of sort of remembered this dialogue from Bhagat Singh, who was a Indian freedom fighter, and he has a different ideology than Mahatma Gandhi, because Gandhi was a non-violent guy, and Bhagat Singh was, we gotta use all weapons in our arsenal kind of guy. And but still, he also valued human life. So he, along with a couple of other freedom fighters, actually bombed Indian Parliament. But when they bombed it, the intensity of those bombs were not strong at all, because that was their intention. Their intention was to shake up the system, to make the system hear their voice, because the system was deaf to them, or to Indians at the time. So their solution was to just blow the bomb is in session and make sure that no one is killed, and surrender. And that's exactly what they did. And the whole reason they did that was because the government forced to hold a trial and introduced his intellectual arguments to make a case for what he did. And it's a very fascinating history, because he was coming from a place where he wanted to shake a system without hurting anybody else. And that's kind of sort of like, one of the core Indian philosophy, to do no harm to people, and come from a compassionate side. But there's a lot of other stories that linked with Bhagat Singh altogether. But the point is, sometimes system is so much used to operate in its auto mode that it needed a little shaken up, and people who are protesting out there, that's what they are trying to do, to wake up the system. And unfortunately, some of them are aggressive enough to express their violence and create a whole different chaos. Anyways, it's too late. It's past midnight, and I gotta meditate for an hour, and then continue on my rituals. So it's gonna be a long night, at least a couple more hours, for me to wrap up my entire day and then go back to bed, the sweet sleep. So I'm gonna set an alarm for an hour and meditate. All right. I will see you in an hour. Thanks for joining me for this live meditation session. Until next time.